meet
I want the people to know that he saved my soul, but I still like to listen to the radio. This is rock and roll is wrong, we'll give you one more chance. I feel so good, I gotta get up and dance. I know what's right, I know what's wrong, and I don't confuse it. All I'm really trying to say is, why should the devil have all the good music? I feel good every day. Because Jesus is the rock and he wrote my blues. Jesus is the rock and he wrote my blues. Jesus is the rock, he wrote my blues away.
I've been concerned about our responsibility towards the third world for some years now. And it's always great to be able to visit some of the Tear Fund projects, to see the needs at first hand, and to meet people who are actually in the front line. Tear Fund is a Christian relief and development organization working in some of the world's most needy areas. What happens usually is that Tear Fund will be asked to help a group of Christians in one of the developing countries who are trying to do something about the needs of their community, whether it's health, food, education, or whatever. And Tear Fund's help comes in all sorts of ways. It's really just Christians cooperating to show the love of Christ in a practical way.
Takes a lifetime commitment if we're gonna help this land. 'Cause a lifetime of problems needs more than pious hands. Take a child who is free, and I'll show you the man. With a little bit of loving now and a helping hand.
Kenya is a lovely country. But some of the things I saw, they were pretty grim. The poverty and the squalor, the lack of hope. I've seen it in other parts of the world too, and it can make you feel really frustrated because there seems so little you can do to help.
It's a drop in the bucket, I can hear you say. But the bucket gets wetter, I know we'll fill it someday, one day.
George Hoffman and Sally Lampert suggested that the first place we should see was Makadara. Now, Makadara is a very poor area on the outskirts of Nairobi. The thing that struck me was the number of little kids just roaming the streets. Their mothers go out to work, and so there's no one left at home to look after them or even feed them, which is pretty tough if you're only 3 years old. Now, being neglected is bad enough. But as George said, it's the lack of food that's the real problem.
As in every other African city, 1/4 of the children who die, they die in fact of malnutrition.
And it really could all be prevented.
Actually, it was amazing to see what can be done in a situation like this. At the Makadara Community Center, I met a group of Christians who had a program to get kids off the street, to care for them, give them nursery school education, and provide good, nourishing meals. Because of the homes that most of them come from, the food that they get every day at the center is the only thing standing between these kids and malnutrition. The cost of the meals is met through sponsorship from Christians in the UK. But lack of food is not the only concern at Makadara. Clean water is also a problem.
It's a sobering thought, Cliff, that no less than 5 million children each year die of dysentery or diarrhea, and that's caused through drinking polluted or contaminated water. Today they've asked us if we could help to install this catchment tank. and ensure during the dry season that they have continuous, fresh, clean water.
Cliff, this is Anna,
Hi, Anna.
teaching the 5-year-olds scripture lesson.
How are you? Fine. They're finding themselves.
Huyo mwanamke alikuwa amebeba nini? Samaki na mkate, si ndio?
Please, miss. I don't speak your language. What are you teaching them?
I'm teaching about Jesus Christ, who is the good shepherd.
One of the kids I met in Anna's class was Michael. Now, Michael lives with his father and 2 elder brothers in a small room off this courtyard. His mother abandoned the family soon after Michael was born, leaving him in the care of his father, who was often out of work. His brothers are much older than he is, and Michael used to spend most of his time just wandering around the streets. If it wasn't for the Makadara Center, Michael would be condemned to the same cycle of poverty and despair as the rest of his family.
The young ones, gone with the young ones, and the young ones shouldn't be afraid to live, love, while the flame is strong, for it may not be the young ones very long. Tomorrow, why wait until tomorrow? 'Cause tomorrow sometimes never comes. So love me. There's a song to be sung, and the best time is to sing it while we're young. Can you do?
It was only towards the end of my time here that I realized just how important all of this is to the future of these children. In Kenya, the education system really begins with nursery school. It's very difficult for a child to get into primary school if he hasn't been to a nursery school. But nursery school fees are almost 7 times as much as primary school, and many parents simply don't have that sort of money. Without Tier Fund sponsorship, most of these children would never go to school. Without education, their chances of a decent job would be almost nil.
That is why Tier Fund is helping more and more children get this basic start in life. Really. Jesus said, if you do it for one of these, you do it for me.
One of the most depressing things I saw during my time in Nairobi was the number of young men standing around with nothing to do. Some of them would have drifted in from the country looking for work. Others would have grown up in areas like Makadara. In Pumwani, probably the toughest area in Nairobi, I met Johnson Machira. He is the head of the Christian Industrial Training Center, which was set up to give unemployed youngsters the sort of practical skills that will help them find work.
If you look outside here, and what you see apart from school-age children who should have been 35, 36, or even done their CPA examination, but because their parents are poor, they have nothing to do. A lot of the children, as you see them now in the streets, are our potential students.
What's Muzumbu? Is that Muzumbu?
I'm African.
Muzumbu of Africa?
Yes.
What's Muzumbu?
You.
Am I Muzumbu?
Yes.
Oh.
Upe.
Oh, why? Oh. This, and Muzumbu is white, huh?
Yes, for America.
People tend to think the city is the answer. So you find the rural poor coming to town to become the urban poor. And because they think the city has the answer. You have big lights, you have mini cars, and you may pick something on the way. They think where there are many people and people are smartly dressed, there must be some magical way of creating wealth. Wealth is created by production, am I right? If people can work on the land and produce, if people can work with their hands and produce, now that is wealth. That's why we, in our training system, as you found out, we are very much production-oriented.
The thing that impressed me most as I went around the center was that it was all so enthusiastic. The youngsters were really keen to learn and to work hard at mastering a trade. And the instructors were enthusiastic too. They were obviously there out of a genuine concern for their students.
This machine you see here, which is the pride of this workshop, was bought from the proceeds of, I believe, one of your concerts in England. And we are very, very glad to have it here. The boys are learning a lot. We actually run round for offcuts and scrap wood from big importers like British Leyland when they import the engines of their cars and they strip off the packing cases. And we go and ask them to give us.
So these are packing cases?
Yeah, these are some of the packing cases, you see.
It looks good wood. I mean, I don't understand it. I bet
Well,
they wish they hadn't thrown it away. My ones at home don't work so smoothly.
The finished standard must be very nice, because otherwise the boys will not be able to get jobs when they leave the place. And in fact, many employers, when they come in and see what they have made, then they say, look, I want to employ this fellow. And you can see, like this.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to order that bed if I may.
Well, you're welcome. We'll make
That's how it's done, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
I mean,
how it's done.
And I've seen it and I like it and I can order it.
Yeah, people walk in and see what is made.
1 4-foot-6 bed, please.
A year ago, these lads were hanging about the streets. Now they're trained, they've got a skill, and they're producing really useful things. All of them come from very poor homes. The money from the sale of the products goes towards subsidizing their training. In addition, most of them are being supported through Tier Fund student sponsorship scheme.
Some of these boys come from very far. They can't be able to go back for lunch, and therefore we feel it is important to maintain their strength by giving something simple for them to eat during lunch hour. You give a boy a training, but that's not the end. If he goes out to get salary and earn it and waste it. So we also teach them how to become loyal to themselves and to their families. Then we teach them basic Christian truths. And coupled with the usual weekly worship services, some of them find the Lord.
And it's great to think that we're actually talking about someone who might come from the slum next door at an early age and then grow on to be an adult who's really mature and knows the Lord.
In many developing countries, a handicapped child is thought of as an additional burden on the family, and only a few get proper care and medical attention. Many of them just end up on the streets as beggars. At the Salvation Army Center for the Disabled in Thika, the main aim is to give handicapped teenagers some form of vocational training so that when they leave, they'll have the skills they need to be really independent and to earn their own living. During my visit, I met Nancy Williams. She's the wife of a BCMS missionary, and I was able to gate crash her dressmaking course.
There's a little hole for in the middle of the carpet.
If you are going to make the dress and cut it at the waist, this is the waist here.
Yes.
If you don't want that kind of skirt, you will only cut it to there, and then you will take a dart
Oh, I see.
in at the waist here.
I'm sure they
You
all
see?
knew that anyway. I didn't know. Cecilia, you realize that this machine and I have got something in common. We're both singers, only this one works. What do you do?
First, I put the rings, then second, I passed here.
Uh-huh. And this is all for making a dress, huh?
Yes. Then,
Did you use this when you were making all the uniforms?
yes,
Really? Or are you good at making a nice straight line?
yes,
Do you like working here?
yeah,
How long have you been here?
1,
1 month?
yes.
Only 1 month? Or
Only 6,
6 months?
yes,
I thought because you're so good, I thought you must be here longer than 1 month. Do you make clothes for men also? Shirts?
yes.
You-
Shirts, clothes,
Great. Do you think you could make me a shirt? I'm only a very small man.
No,
3 of the 4 came from the Joytown School for Crippled Children, but they are people who have failed their primary examination and couldn't go on to further education.
Do you choose your own pieces of material? Yeah?
yes,
And you enjoy making them?
yes,
What's inside there?
a piece of material.
All the little bits
Yes.
that you can't use? Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Now, what else do you make? What else do you make?
Dress,
You make the dresses too?
yes,
Now, do you make shirts?
yes,
You do make shirts?
we make,
Okay, yeah, I'm asking everyone if they'll make me a shirt. Do you think you could?
yes,
Right, I'll place an order. But I know something else you make as well. Good night. This is one of yours, huh? What do you call her?
Dory,
Dory?
door, yes.
Great. This is really nice for a baby to have, huh? Smashing. Did you have some when you were a baby? Why are you laughing? Did you have one?
Yes,
What we've tried to do is hit a slightly a higher standard than the ordinary tailor who sits outside the shops, who just runs something up quickly and doesn't charge very much. The girls must make at least 40 to 50 shillings a day before they'll be able to make a living out of it.
this is a dress for a girl,
Yeah. How old would the girl be?
about 4 to 5 years.
4 to 5. Oh, just a little bit younger than you, huh? Do you get on well here with all the other girls?
Yes,
You're good friends?
yes,
What are you going to do when you finish working here?
we want to unite together and start our little business.
Really?
Uh,
Do you think that will happen? You'd like it to happen?
if possible.
It would be nice if they could work together because some are better at one thing than another and they could really learn to share.
Give a little bit of loving now, and I'll
It is almost impossible to understand a country like Kenya without understanding something about the realities of village life. In a remote thornbush area near Narok, we met Neil Watson, a CMS missionary who has worked among the Samburu and Maasai tribes for more than 22 years. The Maasai are proud, dignified people, one of the last of Africa's great warrior tribes. But as I soon discovered, village life is not as romantic as it seems.
Not as much a way of life as food and clothes and sleeping.
Almost, but it does mean that they do get eye diseases and eye infections.
I mean, back home we're told that flies are carriers. I mean, these people live with it in their noses, in their mouth, in their eyes the whole time. I don't know how they survive at all. It's actually getting right inside the eyelid. I mean, and
Taking the moisture out.
yeah. I mean, and the fly was oblivious that I touched one of them.
And behind it leaves the disease and the germs.
See, it's the livestock that bring the flies, really.
Yeah.
So often you say, wash your eyes or wash your clothes. There's no water. I think really water supplies are absolutely vital to better health. They've built this dam here, and the rain water which they get maybe once in a year flows in here. And this has got to last them until the same time next year. But what we've got is buried in the water down there a sand filter, so that any water that comes through this pump is being sucked through sand and being cleaned to some extent at least.
Traditionally, the Maasai have been wandering herdsmen, living off the land with their goats and cattle in a perpetual search for water. But drought, famine, and the appeal of city life are gradually breaking down their old ways. They can't survive much longer in the 20th century as nomads. Neil Watson is one of the few white men that the Maasai trust. Over the years, quietly listening, calmly talking, he's gained their confidence. And gradually, with Tearfund's help, Neil has introduced changes, teaching them to plant crops, to become agriculturalists. The scope of what he was doing was amazing.
If this man succeeds in getting a crop this year, there'll be many more people who want to try and do it next year.
A big problem for these new farmers was what to do with the maize when they got it.
They take it with donkeys up to Narok to be ground. It's about 45 miles.
Just to grind
to grind it and bring it back as flour.
I see.
So now they will get clean maize without this seed dressing from their crop, and they will put it in here, turn the handle, and the flour comes out.
In the afternoon, we were the guests of honor at a special ceremony to mark the opening of a small shop for the area. Before it was built, people had to walk quite incredible distances to buy food, soap, medicines, needles, those sort of things. You don't find many supermarkets in rural Africa, you know. One thing about the Maasai which really impressed me, and which I think we in the West can learn a lot from, is their tremendous sense of community.
I mean, they're bigger than one family. There are several families in a village. Mm-hmm. Like the whole of this village would be supportive of one another. Like the old mother we were talking to, there's no question of her being pushed off into an old people's home or anything like that. She's going to stay here and live out her life, you know, in the bosom of her family, surrounded by her grandchildren and her children.
These kids are at the beginning of their lives. It's a shame we can't come back in 20 years' time and fill them as adults. They might be running this place.
When these young people come from upcountry, expecting to find a job, they find themselves confronted by big buildings and a lot of people walking around and many cars, and they lose their personal identity. They start feeling very lonely. And then you have the street gangs, violence. They go into drinking and they go into drugs, and really they become a big problem.
Again, it sort of underlines what a dreadful loss it would be if you just took, like, you fail a primary exam and then all this gets forgotten about. I mean, it's great that this is here to give people like them an opportunity to show what they can do with their artistic talents.
And then the immunization programs, you know, I mean, some will die but could be prevented if they'd all been immunized. So that's a matter of organization, transport, bringing the nurses and the medicine.
Hear what I'm hearing, see what I see. Jesus said if you do it for one of these, you do it for me. So make up your mind, take up your stand. Give a little bit of love and now and a helping hand. Give a little bit of love now, lend a helping hand. It's a drop in the bucket, I can hear you say, but the bucket gets wetter, I know we'll fill it someday, one day. It's a make up your mind.